Is the Minecraft world actually flat? At first glance, that sounds like a rather dumb question. Of course the Minecraft world is flat. But is it really? When you first spawn into a Minecraft world, it seems like an endless flat land. Sure, there are hills, valleys, and even mountains at points, but the world always seems to return to the base ocean level of y equals 64, and thus, the world seems flat. However, that is merely an illusion. Allow me to explain. Often when we're thinking about how the world is, we're looking at coordinates. But let's break that down. Coordinates are arranged in the XYZ layout. X is length, Y is height, and Z is width. Let's focus on the Y level first. The greater the value you have, the higher you are. And the lower the Y value, the deeper you are. So Y level 64 is the baseline. That's where the oceans reside, and where most of the surface lands start to generate. And thus, going below that level, we start to go underground, most of the time. Typically, this part of the underground is filled with stone, and the occasional cave. If we keep descending, and arrive at Y level 0, deep slate starts to generate. And a few blocks into the negative Y level, deep slate becomes the primary block of the world. And yet again, we have the occasional cave. If we continue to descend further, you might find an ancient city. If not, we'll keep going until we reach around Y level negative 50. That's where lava pools and lava lakes will start to generate rather frequently. Descending even further to Y level negative 60, bedrock starts to spawn, and at Y level negative 64, there's an entire layer of pure bedrock. But we can keep going, for if you get below that level, you enter a new realm, known as the Void. A deadly place filled only with darkness that will consume your life if you foolishly fall in. But now let's head back up to the surface. Above Y level 64, we can build whatever we want, all the way up to Y level 320, which is the build limit. We can safely fly above that point, but no blocks can be generated above that level. And that even includes the mighty subscribe button, because for some reason, that too has to follow the laws of physics. Well, for now. So the Minecraft world is this dimension that only has a limit in height, but is endless in its width and length. Well, no, not quite. Just as the Y level has a limit, so do the X and Z axes. And while they do seem endless, there is a point where you can go no further. The world border. A glowing blue barrier that we cannot cross. This is the limit. However, this is a place that most of us will never reach, being 30 million blocks away in each direction from 0, 0. So that puts the Minecraft world at a 384 by 60 million block plane. And so on a surface level, it seems like the Minecraft world is just a very large flat world. However, there's quite a lot of contradictory evidence to that idea. Number 1. Gravity. Gravity is the force that attracts a body towards the centre of the Earth, or any other physical body having mass. That sounds a little bit confusing, doesn't it? So here's just a simpler way of explaining it. Particles are like the tiny building blocks of everything in the universe. When these particles come together, they form mass. Mass naturally attracts other mass, meaning masses just want to get closer to one another. In other words, mass just wants to make friends with, well, other mass. This attraction, or pulling friendship force, bringing the masses together, is what we call gravity. The bigger the object's mass, the stronger its pull, or gravitational force. In other words, the bigger the mass, the more it wants to make friends with other masses. Now, gravity affects literally everything, but for the most part we only notice its effects on big objects with lots of mass, like the Earth, or the Sun, because their gravitational pull, or their desire to be friends with other masses, is so much stronger, and we can actually observe it. Also, the point where these mass friends want to meet up is the centre of the mass, as that's the most stable part of the mass for them to be friends with one another. Thus, the most stable shape for any celestial object is a sphere, because that potential pull is at its maximum in a sphere. So that's the basic theory of gravity, And while our understanding of gravity might evolve, and we could be entirely wrong on this theory of gravity, let's just assume that today, gravity is a real, powerful force in our universe, and therefore it's actually something we need to consider when discussing planets, such as the Minecraft overworld. Now, we know that this gravity exists in the Minecraft world, because when you jump, you come back down. Also, structures don't just float away, implying that there must be some force keeping them down and stable in place, and typically, this would be gravity. Additionally, we know that pressure occurs within Minecraft due to the existence of ores such as diamonds, which can only exist naturally when carbon is put under extreme pressure for a very long time. Also, deep slate seems to be a hardened, pressurized version of stone, as the layers of the underground stone only become deep slate below Y level 0, which is under a very large amount of stone. This could potentially mean that a lot of pressure is being put onto that stone, and making it deep slate over a very long, unknown period of time. Now, if gravity didn't exist, then that pressure wouldn't occur, as there would be no downwards pulling force. And thus, because there is pressure, gravity must exist within Minecraft. So, if gravity exists on the smaller scales, it must also exist on the larger scales. Here's what I mean. Since gravity pulls all mass towards the centre, a flat world should in theory be, well, impossible, at least in the long term. This is because the outer parts of that mass should all be forced into the centre, thanks to gravity, thus forcing the flat world to bend inwards and create a sphere, which is the most gravitationally stable configuration of mass. Now, this takes a very long time to occur. It doesn't just happen overnight. However, we know that the overworld is at least a few million years old, due to the existence of fossils. So if the world can have fossils, over that time it should have also been bent by gravity into a sphere-like shape if it was actually a flat land. Thus the overworld can't be flat. It's just not physically possible. It has to be a sphere, but the Minecraft world clearly isn't a sphere. We can't go around its diameter. There's boundaries to it, and we don't loop back around. But that doesn't mean that gravity doesn't exist and that the world is flat. There could actually be a strange gravitational reason for this. That's because Minecraft gravity is not quite like the one that we know here on Earth. Blocks in Minecraft can float. If there was actually a strong gravitational force, those should be pulled down instantly. So something like a netherite block, which is likely one of the most densest blocks, and thus the block with the most mass, is not affected by gravity at all. Yet, you, and I, the players, and any other entities, and even some light blocks, such as sand or gravel, are somehow affected by gravity. That shouldn't be the case, and it doesn't make any sense. The more mass an object has, the greater the effect of gravity should be. Yet, in Minecraft, we have the opposite effect. The lighter blocks are the only ones being affected by gravity, and the massive blocks aren't even affected. Well, not that we can see. So gravity at Minecraft is very strange, and at the same time, it's also somehow stable across the entire world, despite its great oddities and, presumably, unstable nature. But for now, let's just put gravity to one side, and let's focus on the other proofs for the non-flat world. Number 2. The horizon. If the Minecraft world was truly flat, then you should be able to see everything on a clear day. Things would start to get smaller over a large distance, but if the world was flat, you should be able to see everything. However, that's not the case. There is a render distance, which limits how far away we can see. And that indicates that there must be at least some curvature to the world. Thus, if that's the case, the world is not flat. Now, this could just be a hardware limitation of Minecraft, as rendering everything all at once might put too much of a strain on the hardware of some users, especially mobile players who have weaker devices. However, recent mods, such as the Distance Horizons mod, have shown that it is possible to render great distances, so the existence of a horizon might actually prove that the Minecraft world is non-flat. Number 3. The Earth. The overworld is at least partially inspired by the Earth. We have some of the most impressive biomes on Earth, within Minecraft, such as the Badlands, the jungles, and frozen mountain peaks. The overworld is massively inspired by the Earth, yet at the same time, it's also a fantasy land within a video game that has many differences to the real world. For instance, in the real world, we don't have magic potions, or zombies, or flying demon creatures. So perhaps another fantasy difference from the real Earth could be its shape. It's very obvious that the Earth is flat, as you all know. So perhaps the developers of Mojang would want to make Minecraft more of this fantasy different world by not copying the same world shape as our home planet. Thus, since the Earth is flat, the Minecraft world would be made to be non-flat, thus proving our point. Number 4. The Sun and Moon. If you look up at the night sky of your Minecraft world, you'll see the moon. If you look up at the day sky of your Minecraft world, you'll see the sun. What do you notice about these two celestial objects? I'll give you a few seconds. Yeah, neither one is flat. They are both cubes. So we could assume that more than likely, all celestial objects in the Minecraft universe are the same shape. Cubes. It wouldn't make sense for different celestial objects to have different rules of physics and gravities. Thus, all celestial objects in the Minecraft universe should be somewhat cube-shaped. That sounds crazy, but it actually makes quite a lot of sense if the Minecraft world was actually a cube. Remember, below the bedrock layers, there is the void, the one that kills you so quickly. But maybe the reason that the void is so dangerous and so dark is because of how dense it is, with invisible particles that are so densely packed together that not even light can escape. That could be why you die of this strange variant of suffocation when you enter it. Bear in mind, the void is under all of the world's bedrock, so for a moment let's just assume that the overworld is actually a cube. Well, assuming that each side of this cube is that 60 million by 60 million area, and that the reason why we can't go beyond the world border is because that's where the edge of the cube is, well, that would put the void at a bare minimum of 60 million blocks by 60 million blocks by 60 million blocks. That's huge! In fact, if you worked out the volume of that, assuming that one block was a 1 by 1 meter area, that would have more volume than the entire Earth. In fact, it's around the volume of 2 million Earths. Our brains can't even comprehend how large that is. And so perhaps, if the void is this extremely dense area, and it has that big of a volume, the mass of the overworld would be insanely big. And that could be how we get gravity. Maybe because of the fact that these strange void particles that make up most of this mass are somehow contained by the bedrock, the power of this gravity could be warped. That's explaining why we have these strange gravitational rules of the overworld. But it may have just been strange to start off with, because these invisible void particles could be some sort of dark antimatter. We just don't know. Also, if this was the case, the overworld wouldn't be a perfect cube. It would be a slightly rounded, bulging cube, just like how the Earth isn't a perfect sphere. However, due to the great scales of the overworld, we would be unable to notice that slight protrusion on our small scales, and instead, we somewhat interpret the land to be flat. But what we're really seeing is just one sliver of a giant square of a face on that cube. There's further proof of this too in media for Minecraft. For example, in some of their graphics for their live events, or even for some of their merchandise for one of their games, Minecraft Earth, they show the world to be a cube. So it's clear, the world is not flat, it's a cube. Maybe in the Minecraft universe, cubes are just more stable gravitational shapes, and that could also explain why everything's so blocky. Mass is just trying to be the most stable it can. And if cubes are the most stable, they'll be cubes. But now that we've learnt that the Minecraft world is not flat, let's turn our attention back to the real world, the actual flat planet. And let's look up at the stars. It's amazing. There are trillions of those sparkling little dots that we call stars, and trillions of planets too orbiting them. And yet, we are here, on the only little dot where life is, and where you can play Minecraft. Well, we're the only one. For now. as you could watch this video and learn how you could play Minecraft out in space.